Did you know that at the dawn of every civilization, there lies a fundamental question about creation? It is a culture's most primal philosophical query into the meaning of its own existence. It is the origin from which all future myths, epics, and the entire spiritual world of a civilization will emerge. The singularity. While the priests of ancient Egypt carved on stone how the gods called forth creation from the waters of chaos with their words, while the philosophers of ancient Greece debated how the earth, Mother Gaia, emerged from the abyss of chaos to birth the first gods, while the epics of Babylon praised the god Marduk, who slayed the chaos, Mother Tiamat, and built the world from her corpse. While the Brahmins of India chanted that the entire universe is but a dream of the god Brahma, and while the Bible declared with sacred authority, "In the beginning, God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light," we find that the creation myths of these great civilizations all follow a common pattern. An external, omnipotent creator, or group of creators, who shaped the raw material of chaos from the outside through divine commands, wars, or dreams to ultimately build the world. This is an exogenous model of creation. The gods and the world are separate. Yet in the Far East, on a completely different land, the ancestors of China envisioned a creation story that was utterly unique, and perhaps even lonelier. Have you ever wondered why, in Chinese mythology alone, there is no lofty designer? Why its origin is an internal giant, gestated in darkness, who split the cosmos apart through an earth-shattering act of self-sacrifice? This is an endogenous model of creation. The God is the world. What kind of path did this unique beginning set for the future of a civilization? And what different kinds of genes did it instill into the character of its people? To answer this, we must return to the singularity of time and meet this lonely creator. Mythology calls him Pangu. History finds no trace of him. Today, from the perspective of the Tianxing Yanyi, we will dissect the first and greatest myth of Chinese civilization, the story of Pangu. To understand Pangu, we must first imagine a state of absolute nothingness, a state that existed before existence itself. It was not an empty void, for a void implies space. It was not darkness, for darkness is merely the absence of light. It was an absolute one, without properties, without differences. The universe gestated within this egg. And Pangu was its yolk. The myth says Pangu slept inside this chaotic egg for 18,000 years. This is not a precise measurement of time. It is a symbol. It symbolizes an immensely long gestation, a time of gathering power in eternal solitude and darkness. He existed with chaos. He was a part of chaos itself. He had no thoughts, for thoughts require an object. He had no dreams, for dreams require space. He simply existed, like the singularity before the Big Bang, which was, yet was not. However, any gestation must eventually lead to the moment of birth. When Pangu awoke from his long slumber, his consciousness opened its eyes for the first time. But what met him was not light. It was an endless, viscous, suffocating darkness. He tried to stretch his limbs, only to be held fast by the eggshell that was both hard and soft. He felt his own oppression, his own confinement, but at the same time, a grander perception flooded his consciousness. He heard something. It was not a sound, but a resonance. In that dead nothingness, he heard the outlines of future mountains, the pulse of future rivers, the breath of future humanity. He heard the silent screams of all potential life, trapped in the night before creation. This was a cosmic-level compassion, an empathy that grieves for heaven and pities all beings. Therefore, he yearned for space, for light, for order. not just for his own liberation, but to plead for the lives of all things. This yearning, this will, was the first variable born in the universe. And so, from his will for change, the first tool of order was born within the chaos. The Pangu axe. It was not a weapon from elsewhere. It was the physical manifestation of his resolve to break the balance. In physics, this is known as symmetry breaking. Within the perfect balanced singularity, a first imperfect disturbance must occur to trigger all that follows. The Pangu axe was that great imperfect disturbance. He gripped the great axe, the axe forged from his own will, gathered all the power he had accumulated for 18,000 years, and with all his might, he swung it at the eternal cage of chaos that enveloped him. Boom! This was the first cry of the universe, the first note to break the eternal silence. With that single strike, the chaos shattered. It was not a sound as we know it, cannot travel in a vacuum. It was a fundamental vibration originating from the deepest laws of the cosmos. The first light did not shine from without. It erupted from this creation-level release of energy. The light and clear substances like rising vapor began to follow a new law, ascending to become heaven, which we call yang, and the heavy and turbid substances like settling silt slowly sank, coalescing to form earth, which we call yin. Heaven and earth were newly parted. Yin and yang were first divided. But this nascent universe was not stable. The establishment of order is never achieved in a single stroke. The newly separated heaven and earth were in constant danger of collapsing back into chaos. In physics, we call this the law of entropy. Every isolated system has a natural tendency to spontaneously move from order to disorder and stillness. Chaos is the universe's most comfortable state. So, Pangu stood between heaven and earth, his head holding up the sky, his feet planted firmly on the ground. With his own body, he became the sole pillar against entropy, the first lonely guardian of order itself. This was not a static pose, but a dynamic, confrontational, and immeasurably epic and tragic process. He bore the crushing weight of the heavens, the trend toward chaos, and the endless pull of the earth, the gravity of condensing matter. This was the first and the longest contest between order and disorder. He was no longer a mere giant. He became the measuring stick of the universe. Each day the heavens rose higher, the earth grew thicker, and Pangu's body grew taller. His existence was the expansion of the universe. His growth was the maturation of its laws. Another 18,000 years passed in this way. In Chinese cosmology, this number is no accident. The number 9 is the ultimate yang number, representing the peak and apex of a cycle's evolution. 18,000 years symbolizes that Pangu's creation endured thousands of cycles of energy and evolution, from apex to rebirth. This immense span of time was the universe's growth phase, moving from a hot, dense infancy to a cooler, expanding state where stable physical laws could form. Finally, the structure of heaven and earth became completely stable. The sky had risen to its utmost height, which we call the firmament. The earth had grown immeasurably thick, which we call the foundation. Pangu, the creator giant, the hero who pitted himself against the laws of the universe, had at last exhausted all of his strength. His mission was complete. His body, which had supported heaven and earth, slowly collapsed like a mountain range giving way. But his death was not an end. It was the beginning of an even greater creation. It was an ultimate transformation, a complete and selfless dedication of the self to the world. The gods of the West, after their creation, remained gods. They are separate from the world they made. They rule from on high, judging and commanding. But Pangu, after his creation, actively gave up the power to become a god. He chose to sacrifice himself for all things, to completely dissolve and become the world itself. He is not the world's ruler, he is its foundation. This model of the creator and creation becoming one is the ultimate origin of the highest concept in Chinese philosophy, Qianren He Yi, the oneness of heaven and humanity. The divine is the world is the divine. His final breath transformed into the wind and clouds, the first currents in the atmosphere. His voice became the thunder in the sky, the first declaration of the cosmos. His left eye became the sun that illuminates the day, his right eye the moon that lights up the night. His body became the 5 great mountains, the pillars supporting the world, the first skeleton of the continent. His blood pooled into the ceaselessly flowing rivers, the first cradle of life. His veins and sinews formed the dragon veins of the earth, the invisible network of the planet's energy. His muscles became the fertile fields, the soil for future generations of life to flourish. His hair and beard scattered to become the stars in the night sky, the coordinates for future civilizations to gaze upon. His bones and teeth became the metals and jades buried deep in the earth, the source of future technology and art. And the sweat from his body became the dew and gentle rain that nourishes all things. However, Pangu's dissolution did not merely create a material world. More importantly, it defined the world's energetic landscape. The pure qi that rose from his body did not dissipate. It transformed into the positive cosmic energy that nourishes all things and builds order. We call this Ling Qi, or spiritual energy. And the turbid qi that sank from his body did not disappear. It settled to become the source of future chaos and conflict. The negative cosmic energy, we call this Sha Qi, or baleful energy. This dualistic world where the spiritual and the baleful coexist laid the creation-level foundation for the core conflict of our entire Tianxing universe. Finally, after his physical body had completely merged with the world, his creative, primordial spirit also did not dissipate. It transformed into the 3 most fundamental laws that drive the newborn universe. The law representing creation from nothingness, the beginning of the cosmos, which we call the pure jade purity of the primordial beginning. The law representing order from being, which maintains the balance of all things, which we call the supreme pure purity of the numinous treasure. The law representing evolution from order, which drives the development of the world, which we call the grand pure purity of the Tao and its virtue. This process, thousands of years later, was summarized by the ancient Chinese sages into 4 words containing the ultimate mystery of the universe. One qi transforms into the 3 pure ones. Now let us leave the realm of myth for a moment and journey across millennia to the forefront of modern physics. In the early 20th century, astronomers widely believed the universe was static and eternal. However, an American astronomer named Edwin Hubble made an observation that would forever change our view of the cosmos. He was shocked to discover that all galaxies in the universe are moving away from us. Even more incredibly, he found an iron law. The farther a galaxy is from us, the faster it is moving away. The entire universe is like a balloon being constantly inflated, and the galaxies are just spots on its surface, accelerating away from each other. This revolutionary discovery, like a bolt of lightning, shattered the chaos of the old cosmology. It pointed to an inescapable conclusion. If the universe is expanding, then in the distant past, it must have been smaller, hotter, and denser. If we turn the clock back 13.8 billion years, we arrive at an unimaginable origin point. Here, everything in the universe, all matter, energy, time, and space, was compressed into a singularity of infinite density and infinite temperature. And this singularity, which contained all the possibilities of the universe, was given a more poetic name in the East thousands of years ago in the Egg of Chaos. Then, at some inexplicable moment, this singularity exploded. This was not an explosion in space, but a violent, unending expansion of space itself. In the instant of Planck time, the universe inflated at an unimaginable speed. This first great sound of the universe, this violent expansion of space, was dramatized in ancient legend as the Great Axe that split the chaos, and the tragic figure of Pangu, growing taller each day to hold up the sky. After the Big Bang, the universe continued to expand and cool. The first energies transformed into elementary particles, quickly forming the two lightest elements, hydrogen and helium. Like the primordial pure key of the cosmos, they collapsed under gravity, forming the first generation of stars and galaxies, illuminating the dark universe for the first time with the light of nuclear fusion. These light, pure elements rose to become the source of light and heat. Is this not a cosmological echo of the pure key ascending to become heaven? However, hydrogen and helium cannot form the planets beneath our feet, nor the flesh of our bodies. The heavier elements, from carbon and oxygen to the iron in our blood, required a more magnificent crucible for their birth, the core of a star. Over billions of years, the first stars, with core temperatures of hundreds of millions of degrees, painstakingly forged light elements into heavy ones through nuclear fusion. Like cosmic alchemists, they created all the turbid matter that constitutes the material world. Is this not a precise metaphor for the turbid key sinking to become Earth? Finally, when a massive star reached the end of its life, it would erupt in a spectacular supernova, scattering all the heavy elements it had forged throughout its life into the cosmos. This death was also a planting. The corpses of these stars became the foundation for the next generation of stars, planets, and life. And is this not the ultimate expression of Pangu transforming his body into all things? We are all the children of stars. Every atom in our bodies was once burning in the core of a star for billions of years. This astonishing philosophical parallel, spanning thousands of years, forces us to reconsider the meaning of creation myths. Perhaps they are not just fantasies, but an ancient memory of the universe's truth, deeply embedded in our collective unconscious. And more importantly, these two different models of creation left two vastly different ideological imprints on Eastern and Western civilizations. The God model is an exogenous command and separation model. It points toward a spirit of covenant, where humanity must obey the laws of a higher authority in exchange for salvation or grace. It also points toward a spirit of conquest. Since the world is an object created by God for man, man has the right to transform, use, and even conquer nature. The Pangu model, however, is an endogenous sacrifice and unity model. It points toward a spirit of relentless self-improvement. Since there is no savior, the power to change the world can only come from within. And it points toward the ultimate philosophy of the oneness of heaven and humanity, where man and nature are not master and subject, cosmic brothers, equal and from the same origin. A creation myth is the source code of a civilization's spiritual genealogy. After Pangu transformed himself into the world, he did not leave behind a perfect, prearranged Eden of good and evil. He left behind a world full of the conflict between spiritual and baleful energies, a world full of uncertainty, but also an open world of infinite possibility. The Creator himself has become the laws of the universe, silently watching over everything. So in this world without a master, who could inherit his will? Who could become this world's balancer and its definer? In our next chapter, we will focus on the creators, Fuxi and Nuwa. We will uncover why these first inheritors were depicted with human heads and serpentine bodies. Could their intertwined tales be the most ancient design blueprint for the origin of life itself? If today's story sparked your curiosity and you want to see what comes next, please subscribe and hit the bell, and remember to share it with your most curious friends.